Y'all, first and foremost, give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son, the Hamashiach, or Mashiach, uh, who some call Yahawashai, Yeshua, Yahusha, Yashayah, we mostly know as Jesus Christ. I want to, we got to get through this stuff, man. It's, of course, we're running a little behind. I had to step out for about 2 weeks. But we got a lot of videos we have to go over. A lot of chaos, a lot of foolishness has been exposed within our community. And so we want to get through this thing. This is we talked about the finances of Chief Priest and how he explained that he's not using the money. But like I said, you could have just showed your 1099 and show how much, showed your taxes, show how much you in because you got the money in both accounts. We just have to take your word for it. But some of the things we've seen is like the more you speak, man, you got to stop just because, and that's why I like having conversations online, because it's stuck there. You don't get to say, oh well, I didn't say that, and I didn't da 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 da. Like, it's clear. You can be clearly proven whether you lied or not, and then you should be able to come and say, you know what, y'all got me, man. I was out. I was tripping. I was bugged out. But anyway, let me go ahead and let this thing play, man. People be getting annoyed at my commentary before. And a lot of y'all have seen this video anyway. And recently Ariala just did another video. Like, you go check out his last 3-4 videos. You can catch up on all of this stuff.
For me, it was here even before he came into the truth. And whatever it is, he's trying to almost paint this picture as if I'm the reason for it, or I'm to blame, or whatever. Like, that's not the case. It's nonsense. So anyway, but as
I want y'all to see that top picture up there to the right there. It says Adonis is never in that's guerrilla Hebrew government. He's never gonna stop. We might as well extort him. All right, there are no victims here. There are no victims here. Okay, you may see me say this in the next couple of videos. There ain't no victims here. Sister kind of knew what she was getting into and seen all the red flags, chose to ignore the red flags, and now we here. All right. So there has to be some accountability on both ends of this thing if we're going to just really be honest about this situation.
Like I said, as time went on, I became concerned because there was an escalation. With him, it just seemed like it just became more and more and more like it needed to be a part of our sex life. And
this content's kind of graphic, y'all, so shouldn't have the kids listening to this.
And then it was the people he would surround himself with, the places he would go, things like, Naya's cousin, former prostitute. Naya was a former prostitute.
He said Naya is his first wife, or one of his first wives, but it's another wife that he had before her. All right. They were sister wives. And you came into a relationship and you seeing that, hey, you know what? This sister really ain't in the truth. And that's the whole thing about, brothers running a household and they can't get their wives to wear head wraps. You can't get your wife to read some scriptures for you. You can't get your wife to talk about any scriptures. That should tell you something about those brothers' house and how their house being ran and how they're living when that camera cuts off. It should tell you a lot about how they're living when the camera cuts off, when those that are around them, those that are in their house, those that they supposed to have authority over, supposed to be leading, don't really have, that same spirit. They don't, they don't really care about the text like that. Do they really care about it? You know, are they at the feast days? Are they groaning about it? Are they just playing the role?
Former stripper, the sister,
former strippers, former prostitute.
was a prostitute, or former prostitute turned whatever. But it was just, and these were the kind of people that were around him. This was the kind of him going into clubs. Y'all have to understand, like, he'll say shit like I was disagreeable and, you know, disrespectful, but I knew the kind of demon that was on him. I knew being around certain women, going into certain places like these clubs and things like that, all of these things are temptations.
And you right about that, but I don't think it's a demon. I just think it's the flesh, man. It's just giving way to the flesh and operating full flesh. Just going in, doing whatever you think, you know, whatever you want.
It may be disrespectful.
And it burns out the receptors. And what the sister's trying to do a little bit is it's trying to clear her name a little bit, you know, like, you know, I thought I could save him. I thought I could, you know. But we're gonna let this continue.
When he started having back problems, and you know, I went to see a chiropractor, and then you know, I guess it was recommended massages might help as well. When I found out that Naya's cousin who was a prostitute, who then became a masseuse, was starting to give him massages, I took issue with that. And I said something to him about it. I told him, you know, I'm just giving you guys an example of just some of the shit that he might have called me being disagreeable about or disrespectful. I said something about that. I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think that's a good idea. She has a past. I understand she's a masseuse now. She has a past, but I have reason to believe certain behaviors are still very much a part of who she is, and I don't think that's a good idea. Of course, Masali, here you go. You always making something out of nothing. Always you know, it's not like that. You know, she's got her certification. She actually gives massages, and I'd rather pay her than go and pay a heathen and blah, blah, blah. I'm always the bad guy, right? So I had to just take a step back off that. I'm saying that for a reason. This is going to be important. Stick with me, Israel. I'm trying not to, you know, but I need y'all to really understand what I'm saying. So it was things like that. So
and I think later on she's gonna explain that, you know, it's not gonna be in this video, but again, you go to Shar Ariala, go to his page. He has the whole story up there.
Fast forward.
But I think somewhere in there, you know, he ended up sleeping with his first wife's sister or something like that.
We go to Feast of First Fruits. I will have to look at the date. And some, you know, agreement to how we were going to handle the situation, and the understanding that he gave me was as long as, you know, we didn't go outside of our marriage bed. You know, the marriage bed is undefiled. As long as we didn't do anything outside of our marriage bed, and it was kept, you know, with between us, and with phone conversations and, you know, whatever, or text messages and things like that, that, you know, it wasn't sin.
So he done finessed her to think that, you know, if we want to have threesomes, if we want to smash animals, if we whatever we do, and we do it in that bedroom, it's undefiled, and we ain't, you know, we ain't in no sin as long as we doing it together and we in the bed together. And if we want to do the pegging and invite some men over and you watch me get, whatever. But the marriage bed is undefiled long as we keep it inside. Keep it in. But it's not in your bedroom no more. It's out in the public for all the internet to see and do commentary on and speak about. And to, I don't even know if they expose it because kind of your house exposed it. She's exposing it. And so what is it now? You gotta admit through your methodology that in it now you are defiled. Let me keep going, y'all. We're gonna get through this thing. And we actually got 2 videos. We got 7 more minutes of this one.
Isn't that what Israel says? Your husband's understanding is your understanding. So that was my understanding. And again, and it is true.
Your husband understanding is your understanding. Somebody give me some scripture for that. What my scholars? Somebody give me some scripture for that. Or do we have scripture for that? I know it's not worded exactly like that, but where would one glean something? And that's a genuine question. Where would one glean something like that? Outside of, you the head of household. Where are we gleaning that you can't have your own mind, your own viewpoint on scripture as a woman? That whatever your husband believes, you believe. Your husband is Old Testament only, you Old Testament only. Where would we glean that kind of doctrine from?
What he's saying as far as it was fantasy. It was all fantasy. It was all text messages. It was all, role play kind of scenarios and things like that, which I want to make very clear I was not comfortable with. I didn't like it. It wasn't my fetish. It wasn't my, whatever. But if you think about something your partner likes, maybe on a smaller scale, right? Because all of y'all don't have a mic, anybody with a magnifying glass in your homes.
I'm gonna say this too. Another thing that really caught my eye when she initially said, she went into his inbox and said shalom. That's how they met. She just went to his inbox and said shalom. And, from there, I already know that, oh no, you're not a victim. You're not a victim. There are no victims here. Because for me, that's off. I don't think sisters should be just going in brother's inbox. You went in that inbox because that's what you wanted. You know what I'm saying? You weren't going in there to get no understanding. I ain't gonna believe. And then she said that she giggled and said, well, he says that all the time. He says, you got me with shalom. Hey, that's all it took. See, you just laid down in front of that lion. You just laid down in front of him and made yourself a victim. It's almost like like a death by police. When somebody does something and antagonize the police and get themselves killed. And that may be a bad example. That may be a bad example. But I'm trying to say that you put yourself in that position. And okay, you made the mistake to put yourself in that position. But you've seen several red flags where you could have got yourself out before you got this deep. And there was something keeping you there. And you got to be honest about that. I feel this brother, from some of the actions that I've seen of recent, that he leads with the bag. That he leads with that bag. And I'm not saying that he was keeping you there with the bag, but it was something that he was saying to keep you there, where he's showing you that he has a wife that's an ex-prostitute. He's telling you about this fetish that he has about his wife sleeping with other men. He's tried. You already know he's tried already, or he's participated in it already with his other wife. What's keeping you there?
In your bedrooms.
And I know, yeah, just the fear of the Lord. But you see, nothing's going on that's dealing with the text. You see, a lot of this stuff that's going on is outside of the text.
We don't know what the hell y'all are doing or what the fuck y'all are into. So let's think about it on a smaller scale. Sometimes, your partner may be into something that maybe you may not necessarily like or you may not want to do, but to please your partner, like, you'll do it. So I want to make it very clear. I was never forced per se. I never had a gun to my head. I never, but I definitely felt like I was coerced and groomed, and that's going to make more sense as I get closer to the end of
Book on dollar.com to get our lowest rate.
enough evidence at this point to leave. However, I don't want it to be forever. We can just call it a separation, but I understand why you want to leave at this point. I get it. It's a lot. Whatever, which is why I think it's so crazy that he's now saying that he put me out for being disrespectful and disagreeable. You consented to me leaving. Okay. I'm going to try to wrap this up. Again, Israel, I am under the weather. So
it's kind of out of order a little bit, y'all.
On top of being pretty emotional. So anyway, so he consents to me leaving. Of course, during that time, and by the way, unbeknownst to me, there was an eviction pending at the house I was living in. And this is before the phone call. I had actually received the eviction notice. I hadn't said anything to him about it. I wanted to see how long he was going to wait to tell me we were being evicted. I knew there had been financial issues going on, which is another reason I didn't understand why this nigga would take another wife. But I knew there was financial issues going on. He told me due to the split. Obviously, that
due to the split, finances got messed up. But on the same issue, we read the thing, hey, brothers making $200,000-$300,000 without the camp. So I don't know, but financials, the sister's saying financial issues hit. And of course, he's done a rebuttal video to this. And it seems like even in that video, he's just trying to make her jealous and telling her, hey man, just go on. He made even a point where, yeah, those prostitutes are still better than you because, Yahushua said, even these prostitutes and harlots will make it in the kingdom before you. Just throughout the context. Just threw away the context and who he's talking to, who is he talking about. He just threw the verse out there, and that's what I'm saying. Y'all can get, and that's why it's very important. Matter of fact, I got to do the video after this. Very important we understand this when we are going over the text. And these questions should be asked. Somebody coming at you with these scriptures, coming at you with scripture, period. You should be asking, man, where does that come from? What is it talking about? Who is he speaking to? Was he a prophet? Who was a prophet to? What captivity was that in? Who was the king? What are we talking about now? You just don't be grabbing no verse. And that's why, even certain literature styles like the Proverbs and Psalms, it don't really have context to it that much. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just a book of wisdom. It's a book of wise sayings. All right. And so we have to know that also. You got to know when things are poetry. You got to know when things are song. Just like I kill and I maketh alive. I think it's in Samuel. 2 Samuel 2, something like that. I kill, I maketh alive, and I raise it from the dead. I maketh poor, I maketh rich. I bring the poor from the dunghill. I think that's connected to a song. And not saying that it's not true, but you are reading a literal song in there. But anyway, let me continue.
Some issues, whatever. But I didn't know it was that bad, especially to the point that there's an eviction notice and you haven't said anything to me about it. So, coupled with that, and just everything that was going on, like I'm just like, I'm ready to go. So, It was just a lot of back and forth. There were times where we're thinking we can try to reconcile. He's trying to convince me to stay. He's looking at other places for me. We're talking about whether or not he's going to re-sign the lease, and he tells me he's not, and then he does and doesn't tell me that he is, and then, you know, just a whole bunch of bullshit was going on. And actually, I think the eviction actually came after he signed the new lease. It just didn't make any sense. But anyway, so there was just a lot of shit going on. So then now it's like, okay, well, I need to leave, you know, but obviously I need to get my things back down home with me. You know, my car, it's just me and my kids now. Like, I'm going to need transportation. So it was like, okay, so, you know, I need to get a U-Haul or whatever. And then it's like, you know, it's not in the budget. I'm not spending $3,000 for a U-Haul to, you know, whatever. Like, you're just gonna, you know, I'm just gonna have to put you guys on a plane, you know, and I'll ship your things down to you. Bullshit. He was letting me leave, but he was making it difficult for me to leave. I'm not leaving my things here. I moved my entire life for this man twice. My baby pictures. There was a prayer cloth Elder Mathathu had given to us while Jericho was still in my womb. Like, you know, my personal things that I had purchased that he had no part. Like, I'm not leaving all of my things to wait for you to quote unquote ship them.
And that's another thing. You left and came back, and you know, the Most High trying to pull you out of that situation, and you know, and sometimes, you know, that last pull ends up being it be harmful. You lose a little bit of yourself. You lose some of your possessions. You lose your source of income. You have to start over. And this is gonna be one of those situations for you, sis. You're gonna have to completely start over. But I something in me telling that the sister don't want to leave. That somehow he's gonna reconcile this, but he's gonna have to get back to that bag. Got to get back to the bag.
But obviously financially I'm dependent on him, so it's kind of like, what am I gonna do? Trying to wrap this up. So time goes on, and you know, finally he tells me about the eviction. So find out about the, you know, the cousin and things like that, and then also I found out about this other dude. And that's apparently who she's taken off with. So pretty much what happened was his plan backfired on him. What he wanted out of that was simply for her to, what was it that he said? He just wanted her to.
Now, you know, he had this cup fetish, whatever that is, and he want his wife to sleep with a white dude so he can watch it or get the information on it. She does it, and I'll let the sister tell you the rest. Well, you seen the white boy with the baby. He done got her pregnant, and even after this happens, he reconciles with her or something like that, and you know. But again, go to Shar Ariala, and y'all can get the details to this thing.
He just wanted her to be a little slut here and there, but she chose legit.
With the receipts up there, says right there on the you have to understand, you two are different. I see you two so different. Her, I wanted to be a slut here and there. She went the boyfriend route.
Legitimately the boyfriend route. My husband said he wanted to be cucked, not dumped, and Naya dumped him. She fell in love with the second white boy that he knew about. So while he was saying to me, oh God, man. So I find out this other relationship he was aware of as well. So when he told me that you know, the first incident with the other first white dude was not, you know he hadn't told her to do that, like he didn't expect her to do that, whatever, which again I call bullshit on. But what made it even more apparent that that was exactly what he wanted was the fact that once he found out that she had actually done it and that wasn't what he had wanted, why then would he then continue to allow her to entertain this other white guy, knowing what she had the propensity to do the first time? Like, wouldn't you put a stop to everything right then and there? No, he continued to allow that relationship, and it backfired on him, because he would have been satisfied if the relationship had continued. You know, he got his rocks off by knowing the nitty-gritty details, as long as she continued to be his prop. Continue to show up to these high holy days, continue to, you know, posture as his wife and things like that in front of the community, but behind closed doors, she's doing whatever she's doing.
Well, never mind. I ain't even gonna go there.
He would have been fine. The problem is the plan backfired on.
I was wondering, was she holding? Is that the son from the white dude that she's holding? I was wondering, just wondering.
Him, and she fell in love with the dude.
So she fell in love with the dude. He was just supposed to, and you know, he got a little culture in him. He got a little culture in him. You know, but yeah, they ain't got the matching t-shirts.
It's funny now when I think about it, because it's so absurd, and I feel so stupid for having believed that I had the ability to help the kind of demon that's on him. Like, I really thought that, and I believe part of it was due to manipulation. I think that there was a veil over my eyes for a long time, and when this happened, the veil was lifted. This destroyed his family.